Okay, and now for the fun bit, I'm going to show you how to make the Dorset apple cake. The first thing you need to do is turn your oven on to 180 degrees. I have started to prepare my ingredients over here, ready to start baking. You will need 225 grams of self-raising flour. You are going to need 2 tablespoons of cinnamon. If you don't have cinnamon, you could use ground allspice, or if you don't like that as a flavour, you can leave it out completely and just have an apple cake. That's absolutely fine. You will need 115 grams of butter or margarine. Now, I've had a little bit of a nightmare with that this morning. I did not have enough, so I'm going to talk to you about alternatives that you can use instead of butter. Because I don't want anybody going out to the shop because they don't have an ingredient. There are alternatives that you can use. So if you do have enough butter or margarine, it's 115 grams. You will need 115 grams of sugar. I'm using a light brown soft sugar. That's the traditional one to use with the Dorset apple cake. You will need to have 1 egg. I've got it in there beaten, ready to use. So that's 1 egg, 6 to 8 tablespoons of milk, which I will use now in a moment. So could you just get the milk out of the fridge? Totally forgot, thank you. Sorry, my boy is going to video in a moment. He's going to take over, so just going to get the milk. Thank you. Thank you. So you will use 6 to 8 tablespoons of milk. You will need around 225 grams of apple. We've used the cores already for the enzymic browning experiment. So I've got the rest of the apples in there, sat in water, ready to cut up, because if I'd left them on the side, as you will find out, they will start to go brown really quickly. It's approximately 3 apples that you're going to use. I am going to put in, because it's a Dorset apple cake recipe, I'm going to use some raisins. You do need around 100 grams of raisins or sultanas. I've got about 75 grams, that'd be okay, just to give it that little extra taste. And then to make it into the Dorset apple cake recipe, and this is again optional, you can use 2 tablespoons of demerara sugar on the top when you've finished. Okay, so they're the ingredients that you're going to use. Your equipment will be like a large bowl. You'll need a knife. You will need scales. You will need a peeler. If you've got an apple divider, you can use one of those. A sieve for your flour. I'm using a loose bottomed cake tin because it's easier to get out, and I've pre-greased that ready to go. Now, as I mentioned to you earlier, I found out that I did not have enough butter to use. I've got about 60 grams in there, and the recipe requires 115 grams of butter. So there are some alternatives that you can use in recipes, and I've made a choice which one I'm going to use, and I'm going to explain to you why. So you can use peanut butter in recipes if you don't have butter, but that again will obviously give you a peanut taste. And you have to be aware if any of your family members have got any allergies. You can use Greek yogurt. I've just got the 0% fat natural yogurt, so I'm probably not going to use that one. You can also use applesauce. Now, I have no idea why I've got that in the cupboard, but because I'm making an apple recipe, I'm quite glad. And that is the one that I'm going to use. Now, I checked what ratio to butter I would need to use with that. And it's 1 to 1, so I've got 60 grams in there. I will need just under that again to have enough for my recipe. So I'm going to just measure that out now. Just going to get a teaspoon to use to measure that out in a moment. Okay, so I have got already 225 grams of self-raising flour. So I've got that ready to go. Already in my bowl, I've got the butter that I've got to use, and I've put my cinnamon in there as well. So I'm just going to sieve my flour just to make sure that's nice and aerated. And make sure that I've got no lumps of flour left in there. You can see some of them left in the sieve. So I don't want any of them in my bake Don't want any lumps of flour, so I'm going to move that to one side. I have got the butter that I have got to use in there, and my cinnamon is in there already. You can see that just there. So I've put the cinnamon in there ready to go. I am now going to just weigh out the applesauce that I've got to use. I'm just going to get that butter off my spoon. So I want to make sure that I've got enough. That'll probably do it, to be fair. Okay, so I've got my applesauce. You can take that for me. Thank you. Okay, I'm just going to put the applesauce in there, ready to go. I've got my butter. I've put now the sugar's a little bit thicker, so I'm going to leave that for a moment, but I'm going to put my egg in there as well. And then I'm going to mix that up. So the egg's going in, and I'm also going to put my 6 to 8 tablespoons of milk in there as well before mixing it together. I'm going to start with 6 tablespoons. You can see how I get on. If that is not wet enough, then I will add some more in a moment. I'm just going to use the hand whisk. I'm going to move this down a little bit so I can actually get to the point. That mixture is quite dry, so I'm going to put some more milk in there. Okay. So that'll be about another 6. And mix that again. Mix that in. Now you do want quite a thick batter, but that is too thick. So I think what I'm going to do is put another egg in there. Obviously I don't have the right ratio of butter in there. Hold that. Okay.